Hey everyone, what's up? It's me. I finally have another long form video for you guys. Sorry it's taking me so long. For like the past 2 months I've been saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna film this video, I'm gonna film it. Obviously that has not happened, but I'm sat down today, I'm gonna film it. So today's video is gonna be an in-depth tutorial on how to do flower patterns like this one. Here are some of like the examples of this flower pattern in action, and I'm just gonna go over like the basics and some tips. Let's get into it. Most of like the size of your flowers, like what you can do, is determined by what string you have. So this is my usual string I use, 0.7 millimeters, and that's what I use for like these larger seed beads, like this one and the seed beads I have right here. But as you get like smaller sizes of seed beads, you need smaller string. For like the super tiny ones like this, I don't even know what size string this is, but it's super like thin. I don't even know if the camera can focus on it, but it ties super well. It's not super stretchy, but it is great for patterns. And if you don't have that, you can even use like a thin wire. This is 0.3 millimeter. And this is actually really sturdy. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be using the large 4 millimeter seed beads. You also don't have to use this pattern exclusively for bracelets. Like this is one of the necklaces I have in my shop that uses this pattern. And there's 3 other flower bracelets with this pattern I have in my shop also. Don't mind me advertising my shop, trying to get more orders, trying to boost up my small business. So if you are interested in like these type of patterns, definitely make sure to look. For this video, I'm going to be making one that is this pattern. The first thing you need to do, obviously, is select your bead colors. So I would probably suggest to have 2 different types of flowers, just because that's what I personally like. And then you can choose like for the inside of the flower like a different color, and then if you want to have a spacer, I would advise that to be a different color. So if you're gonna have a spacer bead, I would say to have 4 different colors. If you're just gonna do a flower, I would say 3. My first piece of advice, besides making sure you have good stretchy string, would be to make sure you have a lot of string to use, because these pattern takes like a lot of string, because you have to do each flower individually, and it's going to take up a lot more string than you think. So to start this pattern, you're going to want like a relatively thick but not thick bead, if that makes sense. Like this is the ideal to start the pattern with. You don't want like a super thick one, because then it's kind of like boxy in a way, and you don't want like a super thin one, because then the string's going to be like a bit more noticeable. I don't understand. You can see I have like, it's not thin, but it's thinner than the other ones, and then 3 normal, and then I have my center bead. And what you're going to do from there is you're going to section off that first bead you put, and you're going to loop the string through, but you don't want to loop it like that way, if that makes sense. Like you want the string to go out the way that it originally came in. So just watch what I'm doing and then try to replicate that. And then you're going to pull it tight, and you have the start of the flower. After you do those 4 beads and the center bead, you're going to grab 2 more petals, which is what the color beads are called, at least in my head, because they are the petals of the flower. And then what you're going to do is you're going to section off that top bead, the one that's like closest to the center. You're going to loop the string through like that. It's kind of like that like O shape again, and then just pull. You're going to want to pull tight to actually give it that shape. As you notice, like when you put on other beads, the flower might loosen a bit. That's just because it's like kind of the most recent flower, and you just have to stretch it again. Now I'm putting on the colors for the next flower. I put on my one thin, and then I have like my 2 somewhat thicker ones, and then I have another thinner one. And the reason why that 4th one I put on as a thin is because it's the other one that the string is going to go through twice. I think it just looks a bit better for the pattern. This is the first bead we put on, and then this is the 4th one, so then it's like not as chunky, I guess you could say. Once you've done that half flower, you don't need to immediately put it right next to the other flower. What I would suggest is finishing the flower and then stretching it close to the other one. Another tip would be if like your string is kind of larger and it's harder to like slide the string through, I would get like a tiny bit of water on the end. But now I'm kind of pulling the beads a bit closer to the other flower. So what you do for that is you kind of hold the spacer and the first petal, and then you pull like tight on the other side, and then I'm going to do that for the other flower. But yeah, you can see you have the pattern basically started. As you do this pattern more, you'll get like a bit faster at doing it. I'm not super fast. It took me like a full minute to do that, just one flower. Just like anything else, the more you do it, the better you'll get. When I started out, my flowers were not the prettiest. They weren't super tight. You want to make sure when you're doing that second part of the flower that you don't have the beads laid out like this. You need to have the center facing the way that you're putting the beads on for the pattern to work correctly, because if you have it laid out like this and then you put it through the top bead, it's going to make this bead right here be the center. So just be aware of which way you're facing the center bead. I finished with the pattern, and as you can see, it went to about 6.5 inches, which is perfect because that's the size that I sell in my shop. So that was really nice, because sometimes if your flowers are a bit tighter, then it'll be a bit of a like smaller pattern, if that makes sense. Like it could go to 6 instead of 6.5. So just, I would say, beware of how your sizes changes as you get better, because like for me, the better I've gotten at the flowers, kind of the pattern has shrinked a bit. But now I'm just gonna cut it up and tie it. So hopefully this tutorial made sense. If not, put any questions you had in the comments. But here's what the pattern is. And the bracelet looks a bit large on my wrist because my wrist is like more of a 6 inch, not a 6.5. But I think it's good to have larger bracelets with this pattern because it is so delicate. But yeah, that's the end of this video. If you have any other video suggestions, please put them down in the comments. I'll be happy to try and attempt them. If you liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for videos like this. I love you all so much. Bye!